After some serious information, you're going to meet some of your favorite cousins. But first, here's Ted with the rundown.
Tonight on Webster. As an anthropologist, she spent more than 15 years living with and studying orangutans in the jungles of Borneo. She even raised her child alongside her adopted orange monster babies. Later with Webster, world-renowned primatologist and SFU professor, Dr. Birute Galdikas. But first, in 1985-86, the social credit government was spending less than 10% of the national average on student assistance. Last month, the provincial government announced plans for an extra $50 million a year for student financial aid. Is it too little, too late? Webster gets the answers and the details on the plan from Stan Hagen, Provincial Minister of Continuing Education and Job Training.
Stanley Hagen is a rookie MLA, and he is a first-time round cabinet minister, and he looks after advanced education, job training, science and technology, women's programs and youth programs. Is that all you're looking after?
Apprenticeship programs and job training programs.
First question, do you plead on behalf of your government guilty to the fact that until very recently we were by far the stingiest province in Canada when it came to grants and loans to students?
Yes, that's right, Jack, we were.
What have you done to improve it? And please, for me, keep it fairly simple.
Well, the first thing we've done is brought in a tremendous new program which will help the students and their parents of this province. And it's really based on the philosophy that if students will work hard in school, and if they will have summer jobs and work hard during the summer, then this government will help them with their education costs.
In other words, you've got a program whereby there's going to be additional help for the smart student who continues his education.
I said work hard, not smart.
But you've got to be smart to work hard and get into the postgraduate institutions, have you not?
Well, you got a degree from Simon Fraser.
Mine was a paper degree. Now,
Okay.
right up, as of this very moment, after you'd cut the student funding down to a miserable $2.8 million last year or so, the maximum loan was $2,000 per student per academic year. How much will it be now?
Okay, with the student financial assistance package that we've brought in, a university student will be eligible for up to $5,800. That's without dependents, $5,800 between student loans and the equalization plan.
All right, forget the equalization plan, because we're talking about student loans which apply all throughout the province and those who go to university
And college.
and colleges. Well, how much has the $2,000 by itself gone up to?
$3,000.
Gone up to $3,000. And what's this other $2,800 you talk about?
Well, that's to help people who live outside of the Lower Mainland access universities and colleges and training institutions that happen to be located in the Lower Mainland, so that people from Prince George or Dawson Creek, Prince Rupert, Kamloops, Kelowna, those areas will be able to access our post-secondary education institutions without being penalized for not living near them.
Okay, so they'll get the $3,000 if they can prove the need. Do they get the balance of the $2,800 as a flat amount in advance, or do they have to claim it for travel, room and board, etc.?
Yes, they have to qualify on a needs basis.
And they get it after they spend the money?
No, they get it as they apply. They apply at the beginning of each year and they get it through the year as they
So
require.
depending on where they live, the amount of this equalization program will vary between a small amount of money and $2,800.
That's correct.
So it's from $2,000 to $3,000 up to a maximum of $5,800 with the equalization. Is that correct?
That's right. Now there are some additional programs for handicapped people and for single parents, and they will qualify for additional amounts depending on what their special needs are. So we've taken those into consideration. I want to give credit to this program, by the way, Jack, to where the credit is due. This came as a result of a committee that I struck at the end of November called the Student Financial Assistance Committee, which was made up of students, people who deal with financial assistance around the province, a couple of people from the ministry and from the business sector. And they brought in these recommendations and the government has accepted them.
How much extra are you spending this year on your total student loan and equalization program?
We're spending a total of $39 million this year.
Now, we talked about these figures which referred to the first 2 years at an advanced institution, right?
That's right.
Now, what happens in the third and fourth year? Do I get no loans at all, or what?
No, that's when you qualify for the loans. In other words, we give the extra money for the first and second year, and by that time the student has proven himself and he knows that he can complete the program, and then he can finish off with the loans. Now, the key here is that we've set a limit on the amount that they will owe at the end of the four-year degree, and that is a limit of $12,000.
But there'll be interest on it.
There will be interest on it, that's right. But will there be no more of the $20,000 and $25,000 loan amounts that are outstanding when a person graduates from university?
Are you going to cut back all the outstanding loan amounts which presently exist on the books, some at some incredible rates from between 12 to 18%?
Well, we would like to do that, but financially we are unable to. What we are doing, though, on behalf of those students, I'm currently negotiating with the federal minister to have those interest rates put on a flexible basis. So the students who took loans out at those high rates will be, the loans will be, or the interest rates will be reduced to the current interest rate. Which
hopefully.
Is hopefully. We're
if
working
the
very
Fed's
hard
agreed.
on that. Yep.
Are there any circumstances under which the loans vanish after a student graduates?
Not if they have the loans.
Not if they have the loans. The loans must be paid back, right?
That's right.
So what you've done really is you've equalized the injustice of those who live beyond where? Mission?
Well, driving distance to the universities.
And beyond that, they will be able to get up to $2,800 room and board equalization fund.
That's right.
To attend each year.
That's right. So they won't be penalized.
And no matter how long they're at university, if they pass on through the first, second, third, and fourth years, the maximum that they will have to repay, even if they received more, 3,000, 6,000, will be 12,000.
Yes. Now they will probably, or in many cases, because of financial need at the universities or training institutions like BCIT, they might well borrow $15,000, $16,000 or more. But our government will pay that down to $12,000, so that's all that they will owe.
In fact, and how about those students who get the equalization grants for travel and accommodation? Is that money repayable too?
No, it isn't.
That is not repayable.
No.
Now, you mentioned something else. Well, first of all, this registered education savings program for those families who are well enough off to have some extra money, they get an extra break, don't they?
Yes, that's right. It will work like an RRSP, where each year a parent can set aside and receive tax benefits for amounts which have yet to be limited for their students' education. We've done it for RRSPs, we've done it for homeowners grants, we've never done it for education. This government is doing it for education. We're going to give the provincial tax credit. We are currently negotiating with the feds to get the federal tax credit.
You mean if I'm wealthy enough to put $5,000 into an account for my child's education, the interest earned on that is free of the 50-odd% provincial tax?
Well, it'll either operate on a tax credit or a tax deductible amount. But you can't stress the thing that you're wealthy enough. You know that we all have priorities in our lives. And what we want people to do is look at their priorities and say, if our priority is to provide an education for our children, then we will set aside those funds to provide that education.
Where does this additional $50 million put us on the level of 1 to 10 from having been the stingiest province of all?
About midway.
We're halfway up.
Which isn't bad for 4 months in the ministry.
Strange thing in your material, which I do not understand, called Passport to Education to record credits, cash credits. Now, what is this?
I'll tell you, this is a super program, and this is a passport to education. And that will be passed out to all high school students in this province in either grade 9 or 10, that's yet to be determined, will be very quickly. And at the end, as they complete each school year, as they complete grade 10, as they complete grade 11, and so forth, they will have an amount stamped in that book, just like a bank passbook.
By whom?
By the school, probably, as they achieve good grades. This is based on good grades, okay? Work hard to get good grades, and we're out to improve the excellence of our society.
Now, have you set the figures yet?
No, we haven't, but they'll probably be about $700.
So if I'm a grade A student, I might get $700. If I'm a grade C student, I might only get $425.
You might not get anything if you're a C student.
A, B, I thought C was pass.
Well, we are looking for excellence.
So therefore you're looking for excellence for the universities.
And
You're
what they
trying
do
to
then-
make them as elitist as possible.
No, we're not. What we do then is take that, they can take that book then when they enroll in a university, college, or training institution like BCIT and have that credited against their tuition fees. It's a great program.
But there's another aspect of this which is complicated and which I'm a bit suspicious about, which we'll explain after this break. Very important question. The maximum student loan you can be stuck with is how much?
$12,000.
If you successfully complete your degree.
You must complete the program.
If I owe more than that, you will give me automatic debt remission to $12,000.
That's right.
Supposing I fail in my 4th year, and I presently at that time, from the old scheme and up to now, owed $22,000.
You have 5 years to complete a 4-year degree. Okay? If you can complete a 4-year degree in 5 years, you qualify for the $12,000 limit.
But if I do not complete my course, apart from sickness, I presume,
That's right. There are some extenuating
I do not get the remission down to $12,000.
That's right.
Now, you were talking to me off the air about employment vouchers,
Yes.
a student job plan which is tied into your university student financing.
That's right.
Explain that to me.
Okay, this doesn't take effect until next summer, a year from this summer, but it's a super program. Students, again, who exhibit financial need will be given a voucher in about April, about this time of the year, and the onus will be on them to go out into the job market, find a job. The employer would normally pay, let's say, $4 an hour. The employer with the voucher can pay $8 an hour.
You'll pick up the other
and
$4.
claim $4 back from the government.
That's
This will-
fine, but look at the number of unemployed between 15 and 24. I've got my handful of vouchers in my hand worth $4 an hour to an employer. I can't find a job.
Okay.
That's discrimination.
Well, no, it isn't. We're going to be working with tourism people, with reforestation people. This will be a very, very concentrated effort to make sure that these people can find jobs. And this puts the onus on the student to find the job, gives him the satisfaction, or her, the satisfaction of obtaining the job himself or herself, and then being able to make enough money to pay for their own education.
So he goes around and says, you pay me $4, the government will pay me $4 and you'll get 8 hours work. But if he doesn't get a job, he just tears up that voucher and throws it away.
Then he doesn't qualify.
What?
Or if he lays on the beach all summer.
Oh,
So
but
he doesn't
supposing-
get that financial aid.
Supposing he goes from door to door, to plant and can't get a job.
Okay, we have an answer to that. That is that we will allow those students who can prove that they have not been able to find a job, we will allow them to do volunteer work in their community. They will do volunteer work, turn in their voucher, and they won't get the cash, but the voucher will apply against the...
They'll have to get some local authority to stamp
Yeah.
that they've done volunteer work.
Chamber of Commerce, Tourism Bureau, Meals on Wheels, whatever.
Yeah, but you can't go and do other people's jobs. You can't go help the municipalities.
No.
Odds and
Has-
ends.
Yeah,
They'll
has to be volunteer.
give you credit, but you won't get any cash.
Won't get any cash.
That's a rough one.
Yep, it's a rough one. It'll have to be monitored very carefully. But again, we want these people to have the opportunity to do something for getting their education.
So the basic loan goes from $2,000 to $3,000. What's the basic loan with dependents? It was $2,400 before. What is it now?
Okay, with dependents, the maximum available with the loan and the equalization fund is $7,200.
With the loan and the equalization fund?
Yes.
Now, is it the same rate for colleges and institutes as well as for the universities?
It's lower for the colleges because their fees are lower. So it's kind of, it's based on a need program, Jack, and so because their fees are lower, but it still will give them the same opportunity, together with BCIT and Vancouver Vocational School, as the people
and you're going to try and get the
college.
kids in the high school to get high grades so that they can get some indefinable amount of money as credits against what?
Against tuition fees.
They can hand them into university for tuition fees.
Or colleges, or BCIT, or Vancouver Vocational School.
And you'll supply the money for that?
Yes.
We'll have to go to the phones. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I have two questions. First of all, I'm in a position where I need one more semester to graduate from university. However, I'm well over the $12,000. I'm just under 20. Is there going to be any problem with me getting a loan in order to finish in the fall?
Okay, what I would suggest that you do is phone the student assistant branch over at my ministry for a specific question like that, because there's going to be a transition period where we're going to help people, you know, and we're going to have to look at rules that are set here that don't help people like this gentleman. And so they're going to, you know, we're human beings over there, and we're trying to help these people.
The other question was, as the amount of federal assistance changed? I know, for example, in a year it's $33.60. Has that been raised or lowered or stayed constant?
It has stayed the same. It stays constant.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Mr. Hagen.
Yes, speaking.
I wonder if you could give me some advice. I'm a faculty member, and I praise your initiative to raise student grants. However, I've been offered a job in Manitoba. It's not promotion, it's a sideways move, and the difference in salary for me is $10,000 for an exact equivalent position in Manitoba. The university I'm in is giving me as much money as they can, including promotion. It's clear to me that I shall have to move from this province to earn a reasonable salary because of the way university faculty salaries have been repressed over the last 4 years.
Okay, you're not on the topic, but you can answer if you wish.
Oh, I don't have any difficulty with that, Jack. Thanks very much for the call, and I'm pleased to say that we've been able to start to address that problem that has
but shall I
happened over the
move
last
to
4 years.
Manitoba, Mr. Hagen?
Definitely not. I wouldn't encourage anybody to move
Well, how
to
long
Manitoba.
do I wait before I'm paid what my colleagues in other provinces are paid?
Well, I would check with your local university now. They have
Well, I
their
have
budget.
done. That's an idiotic answer. I've checked with them. Of course I have. They
Okay.
give me as much money
And,
as they can.
we
I'm asking you, as the man responsible, what is the future for me here? I take a $150,000 research grant with me to Manitoba. Shall I take it there, or are you prepared to pay me a salary that other provinces are?
No, I just told you that I would recommend you stay here, but it's going to take us a few years to get up
Well,
to
that's
speed.
not good enough. I'm sorry. I can't wait a few years. I've
Okay,
waited 4
sir.
years already.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm a student in Vancouver's West End, and I was wondering if I can claim the aforementioned amount to travel outside of the borders of the lower mainland. If not, why? I'll hang up and listen.
Could I just qualify or clarify that? Are you talking about going to a regional college, or are you talking about going outside of the province?
Not outside of the province, but to the north side, Vancouver. North Vancouver, that is, sorry.
He wants equalization grants to go to North Vancouver.
Yeah, the bus costs $60 approximately a month to get there, and on a limited income.
Okay,
that takes-
Stan, that's a good question.
Is it? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but again, I'd recommend that you drop us a letter or phone us. I've never had that question. It's never come up.
Okay, we'll put it
We're trying to address the
on the face of it,
high travel costs from Prince George.
on the face
you know.
of it. What you told me, he gets nothing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, hi. I have a couple of questions. One being, I think, similar to what someone asked earlier. I'm in my 4th year, and I'm beyond $12,000. And I'm just wondering how this will affect me as I graduate probably in the fall.
Okay, you have one more year to go?
That's right.
Okay, we're definitely trying to help that, and our committee is working on this transition period, and I would encourage you to give us a quick call. We will phone you back so that you don't have to pay for the call.
Okay. In other words, you're not quite sure yet of your timing for the application of these
That's right, there's a
allowances.
transition period.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, my question is going to be similar to the one just asked. I'm going to be graduating this spring, and I'm over the $12,000 as well. I'm wondering whether this is going to be retroactive.
It won't be retroactive, but we'll try and do something for you in the 4th year.
I'll put up that number for you to call. We've got the number, and we'll put it up on the screen, so have your pencil and papers ready. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, well, I'd just like to ask a question that was asked well, just ahead of me, but I'd like to say that I think it's a great program, and it's about time that you've finally doing something for the students in BC, because I think you're losing a lot of students that are going east, and I'd just like to thank you for that.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Stan.
Yes.
How you doing?
Good.
Listen, I'm heading into my 4th year next fall, and I'm about $7,000 in debt, Canada student loans, and I'm just wondering how your program is going to help me at all.
Well, again, it's kind of the same as the other calls that we've had, and that is that we're trying to assist the people in this changeover thing. The other item I'm dealing with is with the federal minister on the federal grants, is we're attempting to get the interest rates on a flexible current basis so that you're not tied down to interest rates that were higher 3 years ago.
Let me ask you a question. Can I draw both Canada student loans and loans from the province?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, my question is, I've taken my BA, and I'm currently doing an LLB, and how the situation applies to students who are working on a second degree.
Okay, we have on a 5-year degree, the limit is $16,000, and that's as far as we've gone right now.
More questions to Stan Hagen after the break. Stan Hagen, Minister for Advanced Education, and we're talking about student loans and equalization payments and passports to education, which you're going to get in high school, apparently. Go ahead from Victoria.
Hello. My question regards the registered education savings plan.
Yes.
Are the deposits for existing registered education saving plans also going to be tax deductible?
No, because they are private plans, and we're not able to interfere with those. They're with trust companies and other things.
Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Mr. Webster and honorable guest. You're connected with the Minister of Education, are you not?
No, my ministry is the Ministry of Advanced Education and Job Training. Mr.
Does that
Brummett.
not have anything to do with education?
Well,
Advanced education.
Mr. Brummett is the Minister of Education.
Well, why don't you put some of this money towards social services and teachers?
Fair enough. I want to get the information out in your topic. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Stan.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Section 39? It's when you can collect UIC benefits while you are going to school. Are you familiar with this?
No, you've got me at a bit of a disadvantage.
I am. Okay, well, I'm going to BCIT, the new BCIT, and I'm taking
Yes.
electrical trade.
Yes.
And last year, I took a course there, electrical, and I was able to get this Section 39.
Yes.
This year, I was informed that electrical students and automotive mechanic students are not eligible for this Section 39, therefore cannot collect UIC benefits while they are taking the course.
That's a change in federal regulations then, isn't
Well, I
it?
can't believe that they're picking on certain
Well,
trades.
yes, some people can, some trades in the school can collect this Section 39 whereas
Okay.
I am eligible for UI benefits, but I can't collect this Section 39.
What I would really appreciate you doing is just dropping a note to me, and I will follow that up for you, even with the feds, if that's what it takes.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Jack, I'd like to ask a question, I guess, following on BCIT, as to whether the funding that Mr. Hagen's talking about will be available for the avionics course that's to be held at the airport, if it's going to be ready by September. And what does a grade 12 student do if there's a teacher strike? Will it affect the BCIT situation?
No, it wouldn't affect the BCIT situation, and I'm very familiar with that hangar that BCIT purchased, and they hope to have that program in place. And it's a BCIT program, so it will qualify under these under this program.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, what my problem is with the loan ceilings. Now, that loan ceiling, I think, is it cuts out a lot of the demand to be able to get that loan ceiling. And I was wondering, why not replace it with a non-repayable grant or something like that that would get rid of that excess demand? I don't agree with this ceiling at all.
Well, the problem with grants are that they cost a lot of money, and you know, we've made big strides in this program, and the $12,000 ceiling recommendation came from the committee, which included student representatives, and they felt that that was an amount that students would be able to handle when they graduated and would be able to repay.
But no more grants.
No.
No more grants. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Webster, I'd like to know if Mr. Hagen is doing anything to encourage employers to take first-year apprentices. I have a son that's 24 years old, married with 3 children, and he can't buy a first-year apprenticeship,
well, I can
automotive or heavy-duty mechanic, although he finished with very high marks in the pre-op.
Okay.
Yes, I'm very concerned about, and so is the Labor Minister, the Honourable Lyle Hansen, and certainly one of the aspects of the new Labor Code is to give apprentices easier access into the labor force. The other thing that the Premier has done is asked the Honourable Lyle Hansen and myself to come back to him by July the 1st with a report on apprenticeship programs in the province and their effectiveness. So I think that you'll see some improvements in those programs in the next few months.
And you're going to see a big fuss about the building trade unions saying that taking away apprentices from their hiring hall system is going to cause trouble, but that's another subject. Go ahead from Vernon.
Yes, Mr. Hagen.
Yes.
I'm concerned about the time limit you placed on these debt ceilings. What's happened is I attended some school in Douglas College in 1984-85, but because of the horrible state of the student assistance program, I was basically scared out of school. I spent several years in the workforce trying to save up some money, and now that counts 3 years or 2 years, I believe, and I've only managed to complete a year of my program.
Okay, well, hopefully with this new system you would be able to go right through. That would be the objective, and my advice to you is again to write the Student Services branch of my ministry and ask them for special consideration.
Good. We put the phone number up a couple of times. You'll probably get thousands of calls. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yep.
Mr. Hagen, what I'd like to know is whether the relationship between the BC loans and the federal loans are going to change. Because at the moment, in order to get any BC money at all, you have to get the full Canada student loan. And to give you an example, I have $7,000 in loans total. My BC section is only $374. So it's very difficult to get the $12,000 ceiling you're talking about at the moment, because you'd have to get an astronomical total to get any amount up to $12,000 for BC.
Well, it's based on financial need, and if you don't have the need, you know, you can't borrow the money.
No, I realize that, but what I'm saying is, if I need $5,000 a year to live, I have to get the total Canada student loan, $3,000 odd, in order to get any BC money whatsoever.
Oh yes, but the loan limit includes the federal loan.
Oh, so my federal loan will be covered?
That's right.
Okay, well that's reassuring.
Sure. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm just curious about the loan remission program that the government used to have once a student actually graduates, and that was to do with BC money, not federal money.
Right.
Is that still in effect?
It's still in effect for this year. The 25% remission is still in place and will take effect and will be in place this year, yes.
Only this year, or it will continue?
We're going to work the new program in, And again, there's a bit of a transition period, so there may be a period of time where we will have to look at a larger emission rate so that it comes, you know, it slides in with this program.
Will the figures you told me about the increases this year to the 3,000 plus the equalization costs, will they apply to people going to university in September?
Yes, they will, with some adjustments.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Hagen, is there any financial aid for students attending universities out of the province?
Yes, there is. If the courses that you're trying to get, or that your son and daughter is trying to get, are not available in this province, or if the courses are filled up, for instance in medicine or law or something like that, and you have to go out of province to get them, the program applies to those courses.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I have two questions. The first one is, with regards to secondary school, will there be any provision to monitor the marks to make sure that there's not inflation in the various schools around the province? That is, teachers giving inflated grades in order for students to obtain this credit.
Well, I'll tell you, I served on a school board for 6 years, and I have a lot of confidence in the teachers of this province, and I would be very surprised to see that sort of thing happen, and I'd be disappointed if it happened.
Last call. Go ahead, please.
Hello, I'm in my last year. I'll be finished in December, and I already have a $15,000 student loan plus $2,500 on the Provincial. And I'm wondering, will this program be of benefit to me if I finish in December?
In December of '87.
In December of '87, I'll graduate with my degree.
Okay. I'm going to have to ask you to phone the specialists in our ministry and have them deal with it. We're trying to be very sensitive to this. We're trying to be very helpful, and we may have to bend the rules a bit to help some people.
And you will if you have to.
Yep.
Put up the number once more, and then we'll let Stan Hagen go. 387-6100. And my thanks to Stan Hagen, Minister of Advanced Education, Job Training, Science and Technology, Women's Programs, Youth Programs, and Passports to Education.
Thank you, Jack.
And I'll be back with a charming and delightful and different kind of guest after the break. The orangutan.
Yeah.
I'm honored tonight to have with me Dr. Birute Galdikas, who is an internationally known primatologist. What's a primatologist?
Well, a primatologist is a person who studies primates.
And a primate is an orangutan, a gorilla,
a baboon, a lemur, a galago.
How about me?
Well, you look like one. You fulfill the criteria.
but am I not also a primate?
Absolutely. We humans are in the primate order.
When did you first go to Borneo to spend so many years of your life in studying the behavior of orangutans?
Okay. I first went in October of 1971.
Mm-hmm.
And I arrived at my study site in central Indonesian Borneo in November of 1981. In fact, I arrived there, if I'm not mistaken, November 6th, 1971.
And of course, you're one of a trio of very famous anthropologists who have studied the behavior of the three principal primates.
That's
Am I
right.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Who was the girl who did the gorillas?
Okay, the woman who used to study the mountain gorillas was Diane Fossey. And she was unfortunately brutally murdered, probably by poachers. However, Jane Goodall continues to study the chimpanzees in Gombe National Park in Tanzania.
And you're going back when to Borneo?
I'm going back in May.
Well, thanks to National Geographic, we're going to see a little clip of one of your journeys of how many years ago?
These movies were taken about 12 years ago.
What's happening here?
Okay, let's take a look. Okay, Rod Brindamore, who is my former husband, and I are returning to camp. We are traveling down or up the Seconyo Cannon River. I have a tiny little orangutan with me. This orangutan was confiscated by the forestry and turned over to us for rehabilitation to life in the wild. Here we see some of the signs that we have put up. One of them mentions Tanjung Puting being a nature reserve. Here we have two of the ex-captives that I raised. Now both of these animals now would be cheek patters. They would be fully adult males, and both have gone back to the wild. I have not seen them in a number of years.
Is it your particular function, after studying the orangutans, to condition them to go back to the wild?
No. I study
Well,
wild
what's
orangutans.
happening here with Mr. Peace?
Okay. Here we're taking some blood in order to get a smear in order to see whether that particular orangutan has malaria or not. But the kind of malaria they have is peculiar to them. It's orangutan malaria. And here one is imitating me. He is learning how to wash. You know the old saying, monkey see, monkey do. There's a reason for that saying. Orangutans and other non-human primates tend to be quite imitative. Now here we're feeding some of the ex-captives. This is our real work. Our real work is studying the wild orangutans. And here we have an adult male. His name was Nick. And you can tell he's an adult male by his size and by these huge cheek pads that adorn his face.
Now, you went to study there, of course, but apart from that, you seem to have become a kind of surrogate mother, as you will tell us.
Well, in a way. The surrogate motherhood was a long, long time ago. That was maybe 10 years ago. Now we have Indonesian park rangers working with us, and we have a number of DIAC assistants working with us. And what we do, however, what we do with the ex-captive orangutans that come with us is we actually give them, or try to give them, to some of the older ex-captives who are now adolescents or adults, in order to get these adults to adopt the infants. And that works much better. Orangutans, raising orangutans, teaching orangutans how to be orangutans. I, as a human, could never teach an orangutan how to be an orangutan.
Matter of fact, you must tell me the fascinating story about your little boy who was born when you were in Indonesia.
That's right. Actually, I now have 3 children, and Binti was my first, my oldest. He now lives in Victoria. And for the first 3 years of his life, his only friends, his own size, were orangutans and gibbons. And it reached the point where we were beginning to be afraid that maybe pretty soon he would not be able to make the transition from orangutan back to human.
In other words, he could have grown up.
Oh, his facial expressions were like an orangutan's, his postures were like an orangutan's, the way he dangled his arm was like an orangutan's, but he could always make the switch back to human, you see? But the point was, if he continued in this kind of environment, young children need peers, young children need role models, other little children.
And if the role model is another little orangutan of the same size and age, he will ape, to use the word.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that was a problem that we had with Binti, and that's why Rod and I decided that it was time to get Binti back to Canada.
How close are the orangutans to us? I mean, what do your studies tell you?
Well, I have a chimpanzee pin on my sweater, and the reason I wear this chimpanzee pin sometimes is chimpanzees are our closest living relatives in the animal kingdom. They are great apes like orangutans. Chimpanzees and humans share 99% of their genetic material. Orangutans are also great apes. They are Asian, and they are not so closely related to us as the chimpanzees are. We share approximately 98% of our genetic material with orangutans.
In fact, you could say that the one basic factor which is missing is the power of speech.
That's right, absolutely. Not even the power of language, because studies by various people, such as the Gardners and Roger Foutz and one of my former students, Gary Shapiro, indicate that great apes can be taught language. They can be taught the American Sign Language of the deaf, but they cannot be taught speech.
Show me that other tape from the National Geographic, please, Pat, before we take the break. Now. What's that?
We're trying to have breakfast, and some of the ex-captive orangutans have joined us. And you'll notice that they're all on my side of the table. We're trying to eat these noodles. Rod doesn't seem to have a problem. I do. And again, this goes back to the fact that in the early days, I really was their surrogate mother.
That was unfair, Super.
More with and your questions and comments to Dr. Birute Galdikas after the break. talking to Dr. Birute Galdikas from SFU, the internationally known primatologist. I know from the National Geographic that your living conditions throughout all those years were horrendously dreadful.
Well, certainly hot and humid. And I know that people always ask me about leeches. They ask me about the snakes. But what I feel, and I still have not yet gotten used to, is the humidity. I mean, the humidity is frequently 100%, even when it's not raining.
What about the hostility from any one or any family group of orangutans?
Well, orangutans are extremely gentle, noble, almost benign creatures. In many ways, they are what we sometimes attribute to animals. They are what we expect animals to be. In other words, without any kind of maliciousness. Orangutans approach that ideal perhaps more so than any animal that has not been domesticated as a pet.
But they have the territorial imperative too, surely.
Oh yes, oh yes. When you get adult males who want to mate with the same female, then yes, there are ferocious battles, ferocious combats that last several hours. And you know, they get badly bitten, clumps of hair get torn out, you know, there's blood all over the place, yes.
Would it be an exaggeration for me to say that your first orange monster baby became a killer at the age of 7?
Oh, well, unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, yes. But I think that really has very little to do with his orangutan nature. I think what that has to do with is the fact that he was raised as a human. Even though I tried to raise him as an orangutan, I am a human. And he wanted to be desperately a human being, but he was constrained by the fact that genetically, morphologically, in every way possible, he was an orangutan. And I think that caused problems.
Now, you had trouble building. Let's see some of the slides, I think, which would give a good flavor of what you've been through. That?
Okay, this is an adult male orangutan. His name was Paris, and he's kind of a less dominant male. He runs away when the other males
Will you
approach.
see him when you go back in May?
I hope so. I haven't seen him for several years, but he may come back. This is my husband, Paboha bin Jalan, and my husband is a Dayak from Borneo, and he works with me. This is my daughter, Jane. Jane is now 2, and this illustrates the benign nature of orangutans that I was talking about. The orangutan in that picture is about 7 years old.
And she's perfectly safe.
She's perfectly safe.
But you do talk about, this one?
And this is another juvenile. And interestingly enough, he has gone back to the wild. Sometimes he does not come back to camp for several months at a time. And this is my daughter, Jane, interacting with an orangutan named Princess. And Princess has infant Prince on her side. The reason that Princess is interesting is that my former student, Gary Shapiro, taught Princess the American Sign Language of the deaf. And here we have the same juvenile orangutan with my daughter. And orangutans, unlike the African apes, are totally unafraid of water. They do not swim. I've seen wild orangutans up to their chins in water. But here they've stolen a boat, and they're bringing it back to the campsite. It was a real problem because they would sink boats, and we'd have to find them and bring them up. This is my son Binti, my first child, and he was with Princess, that same orangutan who's now an adolescent and has her own offspring. And when that picture was taken, Binti was like 10 months and Princess was 2 years.
Are you accepted to the stage now where you can walk through the jungle and chat with the orangutans you know?
Yeah, that would be a good way of putting it, except they don't chat back. They
But there
chat
are
back in
times,
different
if
ways.
they're fighting, there's a danger of being.
No, they... if you're in the middle of a combat, all you have to do is just step back a few feet and you're
Anyway,
okay.
conclusions. They're among our closest cousins.
Absolutely.
99% genetically
98.
98% genetically similar.
That's
and
right.
delightful people to be with.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you don't give them any store food.
No, because we don't have any of that kind of food in the middle of the Bornean
And you
jungle.
yourself live on fish and staples.
That's right, and rice.
I must take some phone calls, you mind?
No, not at all.
Go ahead to Dr. Galdikas.
Hi, I was Binti's one of his preschool teachers when he was about 4, and I was really curious to find out how he turned out. I found him a real joy and a lot of fun to be around, but I found he was frustrated sometimes expressing himself, and he had quite the temper. But he was a lot of fun. I kind of understood him, and I don't know. I used to just kind of play with him. Some of the other kids didn't want to come around sometimes because he'd hit them or he'd bite them or something. But I don't know. I just thought he was really great. I just wanted to know how he has turned out.
Well, he's turned out very, very well. In fact, I see a great deal of similarity between him at the age of 10 and Grub, who is Jane Goodall's son, who was raised with the chimpanzees and who is now, I think, at the age of 18 or 19. Binti has a serenity in his being that I think comes from having lived with the orangutans at an early age.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Hi. I was just wondering how successful you were in the orphaned orangutans being returned to the wild, and do they grow up like a regular orangutan would?
Yes, actually we've been quite successful, and one of the reasons we can be successful is that wild orangutans do not live in closed communities like, say, chimpanzees do. So if you take an ex-captive orangutan who is still a juvenile or an adolescent, that orangutan goes out and makes friends with the wild adolescent and juvenile orangutans in the area. And I have one ex-captive orangutan who left camp as an adolescent and came back 11 years later as a cheek patter. In other words, he was a fully adult male.
And was reasonably social.
Yes, and in fact was in terrific health.
They tell me one of their favorite snacks was soap.
That's right. They like they like to lather themselves, and then they lick off the soap lathers that were whipped cream, and they can spend hours doing this.
The fat and the soaps
I think
would be
so.
what they wanted, of course.
I'm not sure, but it could be.
But that was when you were surrounded by orangutans who were aping you on all occasions.
I'm sorry?
When you were watching.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they must have picked it up from humans. Yeah.
How many years in the jungle?
15 and a half.
And going back for another 2?
At least another 2.
Go ahead from Nanaimo.
Oh, good afternoon. I'm thrilled with your guest today, Jack. I was wondering if you had used the sign language, which you briefly touched on, as done by the Gorilla Foundation in California, and the success. Plus, I was wondering if you'd ever been able to elevate into the treetops and do treetop communication and observation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, it was this. My student, Gary Shapiro, taught American Sign Language of the Deaf, which is exactly the same language that was taught to Coco, the gorilla, who is supported by the Gorilla Foundation. Princess learned signs at the same rate that Coco did. And I must say that the work of the Gorilla Foundation is fantastic. Yes, I have elevated myself into the tops of the canopy, into the tops of the trees. Unfortunately, because orangutans are so mobile, I cannot use this method to follow them.
No.
And with the wild orangutans, they are simply not interested in communicating with us.
Tell me about the time you built the secure shack.
It's the secure shack? What,
Yes.
what are you referring to? Oh, right, in the early days when the orangutans kept breaking into our bark-walled, thatch-roofed hut. Absolutely, yes. So we had to build a wooden house, and that still did not work. I mean, an adult male orangutan, if he wanted to, he could get into, I'd say, any building in Borneo in 30 seconds.
Strong.
Strong. He may not be able to get into any building in British Columbia because here we use stone, brick, so on, and it's concrete. But in Borneo, the main building material is wood. And
Are they in danger of dying out?
absolutely, absolutely. And that is one of the reasons why we have a rehabilitation program to return individuals to the wild. It's not so much to increase the wild population, but to educate the local people to the fact that orangutans are in danger of extinction. The reason they're in danger of extinction is because the tropical rainforests, which are their only home, are being destroyed, are being annihilated.
Who's that?
Oh, this is Rico. And this is an adolescent male who adopted that little infant. Unfortunately, that particular adoption came to a bad end.
One last question, though.
Yes.
But you can't hold back the spread of the agricultural patterns of people, can you?
Well, you can. You see, in many cases, governments make political decisions, and for political reasons, sometimes not even economic reasons, and those political decisions can be influenced, can be affected. So, for instance, the destruction of the tropical rainforest in Indonesia is supported by the World Bank for political reasons rather than economic reasons.
And they should make all preparations to save the land for
That's
the
right.
orangutan.
That's right.
Well, Dr. Galdikas, I'm grateful you came here today, especially grateful indeed. I trust you get all the research grants and continue to teach at SFU for many years to come when you're not in the jungles of Borneo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'll be back after the break. Tomorrow we're going to find out from the Honourable Grace McCarthy what is happening at the BC Enterprise Foundation and at Expo, etc., and the North Park. We're also going to have on an American expert on backs, Dr. Hamilton Hall, should be of interest, at 5 p.m. precisely.